I am launching SinisterShaf merchandise exclusively available during Shaftober 2017. So, if you are interested in purchasing a cup or a t-shirt, then please send me an email to SinisterShaf@gmail.com. The email address can also be found in the description box below. If you would like a piece of this merchandise, then please hurry, because it is only available for a limited time. The price for regular cups will be £8. For the colour changing cups, it will be £10. And t-shirts in black or white will be £12. These prices do not include postage, because postage may vary depending on where you live. Number 1. I am a 17-year-old, and I just recently learned how to ride a bike. A bit late, I know, but the opportunity never really presented itself when I was younger. I practiced on a flat road leading up to a graveyard that had a few cars every now and then. Perfect for learning how to ride a bike. I decided it would be better if I rode the bike downtown instead of the same straight road, so I could practice going around corners and navigating around people. I started riding my bike up the path, and all was going well, until I entered the back street of the main street. Way fewer people walk this way, as there are only a couple of streets and an abandoned building. I found myself in a tight spot trying to navigate through 2 pollards and a white car. I tried to steer out of the way of the car, but I hit it and panicked. I got off my bike and walked to the front of the car, looking into the window to apologize. There were 2 men in the car, both around 20, and not well put together. They both wore grey tracksuits with orange and yellow stains all over them. One of them exclaimed that they thought there was a terrorist attack and someone hit their car, while the other man got out of the car to assess the minor damage. At this point, I panicked. I picked up my bike and thought that I could get away. I rode halfway down the long street, my legs feeling weak, already regretting my decision, when the car caught up with me. They tried to drive the car alongside me, so I had to ride over to the pathway and stop. They drove in front of me, so I couldn't get past. One of them shouted,
"We're gonna get you for this."
And the other one got out the car. I started to apologize as much as I could, and explained it was one of my first times riding a bike. He ignored me and kept coming closer. I just stood there, not knowing what to do. He grabbed my arm and I shouted for help as he tried to pull me towards the car. I started saying anything that would stop him, that I would pay for the damage, that I would do anything, but he kept dragging me and reached to open the car door. We were in a street by this point, and a woman had opened the door. I glanced over and started screaming for help. She shouted at them and asked what they were doing. They both looked at each other and then he let go of my arm. He got back in the car, and they drove away. The woman shouted at me to get the license plate number, but in my shocked state, I simply just picked up my bike and rode back home. I don't know what happened to those men since, or if that woman ever did anything else. But it's safe to say that I don't ever want to ride a bike again. Number 2. I have been thinking about this event for a while. I was 16 at the time. My family lived in a typical Midwest subdivision in a large town. Our subdivision was on the corner of a busy road, and a not so busy road that eventually turns into a dirt road after a short distance. The other two sides of the subdivision is all woods. This is important. Across the not so busy road is a trailer park that when we first moved out to this town, when I was 9, had a serial pedophile/rapist problem that sort of scared my family, as well as most of the other families in our neighborhood. You see, my family had a house on the edge of the subdivision. The only thing that separated us from the trailer park was a grassy berm that wrapped around our subdivision. But we are also out in the middle of nowhere, and so there were no street lights on the not so busy road. It was very dark at night. So, every night, we would lock down our house, double check all the deadbolts, bar our 2 big sliding glass doors and easily accessible windows, draw the sliding wooden blinds in front of those big glass doors. That was the routine. It seems like overkill, but my parents didn't want guns in the house, and we were on the outskirts of town, and it would take a while for a police officer to respond in our neck of the woods. At the time this event happened, we had 2 Jack Russell Terriers that always slept with my parents in their room, with the door closed, every night. Every single night. But not on this night. Our male Jack Russell Jack was known to be territorial and aggressive, but only if he was sleeping and you tried to move him. He never bit anyone, but he would snarl his teeth at you. That night, we were all on the couch, watching a movie in the living room. When we got up after the movie, he snapped at my mum, slightly nipping her finger. My mum was upset and put the dog in his crate. She was so mad that she left him down there. When she went up to bed, one other thing that was out of place for the night, my mum also forgot to pull the big sliding wooden blinds in front of the big glass sliding doors in our living room. These doors led to our back patio that faced the berm and the not so busy road. When we didn't have our light on, it was pitch black. Jack's crate was right in the view of these windows. Everything seemed normal until about 1 a.m. At 1 a.m, we all woke up to Jack going berserk. Jack had a history of going nuts over other animals. Cats, horses, birds, squirrels, etc. He had almost killed one of our cats before, so we were used to having to react quickly to his alarm barks. My mum and I were the first into the hallway, and we raced down the steps and ran into the living room to make sure the cats were fine. Jack was tricky and had gotten out of his crate before, but everything was fine. No cats around. My mum let Jack out of his cage, and he bolted to the glass doors and started going crazy. My mum and I kind of both looked at each other, thinking the dog was crazy. So we flipped on the patio light and looked outside. Nothing was there. We decided not to let the dog out in case we couldn't get him back in. So my mum flipped off the light and closed the blind and brought Jack back up to bed. The next day, my sister and I were coming up the driveway when we saw our mum walking up the hill in our backyard from chatting with our backyard neighbour. She had a very concerned look on her face. When we asked her what was wrong, she told us our neighbour's tool shed had been broken into. Our neighbour was a young, well-to-do, handy father that had a bunch of really nice tools and hardware equipment. But he said it was weird. The only thing he was missing was a screwdriver. Then he mentioned that my friend Ashley's family, who lived 2 doors down from him, also had an incident last night. So my mum went in and called her mum. As my mum talked to my friend's mum on the phone, I threw some clothes into the dryer and started working on my homework in the living room. When my mum hung up the phone, she was sheet white and she looked straight at me. I asked her what was wrong. My mum proceeded to tell me that last night my friend's mum and younger brother happened to fall asleep in their basement after watching a movie. At about 1:30 a.m, she woke up to scraping and shuffling outside their glass walkout. Her mum ran up and woke up her husband to go check it out. He tried to brush her off, but he humoured her. My friend's dad happened to be a supervisor and always had to keep his phone on him, even when he slept. As he pulled open their blinds and flipped on their backlight, he was face to face with a very large man. My friend's dad was able to call the police from his cell phone, but they later found out their phone lines were cut and their upstairs glass doors had also been tampered with. The police didn't show up for another half hour, but they brought a canine unit. The dogs were able to track the man's scent to the dirt road, but they ultimately ended up losing him. As my mum finished telling me this, the dryer exhaust kicked on, and when it does, the vent is right near the big sliding glass doors in the living room, and the glass fogs up. As the glass fogs, my eyes go directly to a massive handprint near the handle, positioned only in a way that you were trying to force the door open. My mum quit talking, and all of a sudden, my family was just staring at this handprint. We all looked at our hands. It was bigger than mine, my mum's, my sister's, and my dad's. We reported our experience of the night to the police, and they came to check out and take pictures of the handprint. They never ended up finding the guy, but the police had some suspicions. My sister, Ashley, Ashley's two sisters, and I were all runners, and frequently ran around our subdivision and along the dirt roads. The open layout of our subdivision would enable someone to observe our habits from afar, without even knowing that we were being watched. After some quick realizations that this guy didn't attempt to break into the tool shed neighbor's house and wasn't after expensive equipment, he didn't try to break into the house with the giant Rottweiler, but seemed to be targeting houses with young high school girls. We all came to the same conclusion. Jack, without a doubt, saved us from something potentially horrible that night. Number 3. Sorry about my terrible storytelling. So, when I was a kid, I had a little pug who was oddly muscular. I would take him for walks every afternoon. There was this man in his 50s, with short grey hair, who would always go on the same paths I did on the walks. I really never thought anything of it at the time, until I would see him taking pictures of me and my house. One day, I heard him snap a photo of me while I was walking, and I blurted out, "What the hell, man? Go away!" He stared at me for about 10 seconds and walked away. So, the next day, he was behind me, and he was telling me about personal things only I would know, like my baseball games, PTSA meetings, etc. I thought to myself, what a freak, and brushed it off. So, after a week of his whole screaming out personal things, he started sounding more and more aggressive. Just his tone was giving off an odd vibe. The following days after that, he would just say,
Hey little girl,
in a fake happy tone, and I would just say, "Go away," and forget about it. And my little superhero pug growled at him. He is the best, anyways. One day he screamed,
hello little girl,
in an angry voice, and pulled out a monster-sized machete, and just stared at me, clicking it on the sidewalk. At this point, I froze for what felt like hours, until I realized he was chasing after me, and I ran. I ran faster than I ever have before, and my dog didn't hold me back, thanks to his oddly muscular legs. While I was running, I started crying because he kept saying,
come here little girl,
in this really weird voice, and I just sprinted until I got to my house and slammed the door shut. He came just seconds after me and scratched his knife on the door, while giving me this really weird grin that I can't unsee. I called out to my dad, and when he heard what happened, he darted. My dad confronted me and told me he would walk with me, and I felt safer. So, when we were walking the next day, we didn't see him, but we saw his car, filled with pictures of me, and my dad flipped out. He threw rocks at the window, and he said he went back there later and put a post-it on the car telling the guy to go away. We never saw the guy again, thank God. Compared to other stories, I know this wasn't much, but it freaked me out so badly, and I couldn't sleep for months. So, creep with a machete, let's not meet. Hello everyone, SinisterShaf here. It is finally the month that I, along with many of you, have been waiting for. It is finally time for Shaftober. I would like to say a massive thank you to Deathstripe for the story I hit his car with my bike and they tried to kidnap me. To Befyonce for the story Saved by the Bark. To Eamon25 for the story Creep with a Machete. Thank you for giving me permission to narrate your stories. I hope you enjoyed the first day of Shaftober. If you did, then make sure to like the video and subscribe if you have not done so already. Also, remember to click on the bell icon to be notified when I next upload. As you would have seen at the beginning of this video, if you would like to purchase some limited edition Shaftober 2017 merchandise, then email me. My email can be found in the description box below. Also, follow me on Twitter and like my Facebook page. The links to those are also in the description box. In the comments down below, tell me which one of these stories was your favourite. Also, if you have any of your own stories that you would like to share with me, then email them to me, message them to me on Facebook, or DM them to me via Twitter. My email is SinisterShaf@gmail.com. If you do send me your own stories, then you will be in with a chance to be included in my Shaftober special. The video for Shaftober Day 2 will be up very soon. And, as always, stay sinister.